House number 180.
Court proceedings are usually sober occasions with the one found guilty begging for justice and clemency. But in situations of extreme criminal acts, like the murder of a loved one, you can't blame the ones left behind for trying to take out their anger on the convict. From sexual molestation of minors to serial killers, here are the top 5 moments of courtroom chaos. Number 5. Jerome Boggs. We begin with an arraignment that took place nearly 2 decades ago, in 2003, when a convicted murderer stood before the law a few feet away from the devastated family. This was ill-advised. On trial is Jerome Boggs, who was accused of the murder of Blister Cook and his 4-year-old son. TJ Boggs reportedly went to the Cook's home to buy marijuana, and once he got inside, the drug deal turned into a robbery and double murder. Jerome Boggs is also facing charges of burglary and robbery and is now in court for his arraignment. He pleaded not guilty to all charges. The victim's family is seated in the gallery, devastated by the horrific crime.
Boggs will be held with no bond. It's a desperate pretrial conference on March 26th.
The judge orders Boggs to be held without bond and sends him back to his cell, where he, that's Blister Cook's brother, Michael, is charging towards the defendant. A second brother, Donald Keith, makes an attempt to get at Boggs. While the officers handle that situation, a third relative makes a run at Boggs, but the deputies remain on top of the situation. Boggs is let out by the back door. Luckily for him, there are enough deputies in the courtroom to prevent him from being torn to pieces. Jerome Boggs is later found guilty of all charges and sentenced to life in prison with no chance for parole. Number 4. Jasmine Gordon and Clifford Thomas. Here in the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice in Detroit, Michigan, the 25-year-old Jasmine Gordon and her 24-year-old boyfriend Clifford Thomas are being sentenced today for the death of Gordon's 3-year-old daughter Jamila Smith. Thomas, who is not Jamila's father, was babysitting the toddler when he claimed she hit her head and stopped breathing. But authorities ruled her death a homicide, indicating that the child died of multiple blunt force trauma injuries. Both Gordon and Thomas were found guilty of involuntary manslaughter, among other charges. Now, the defendants, Gordon and Thomas, appear in court together so they won't have to make the family members of the child's father deliver impact statements twice.
She made a bad choice, a real bad choice, and to let this stranger babysit her kids, because that man was a total stranger to them kids.
Judge Margaret Van Houten states, sitting just off camera in the gallery is the dead child's father, Dwayne Smith. There's only a few feet between them, and unfortunately for the baby killer, not much else. When he is asked to deliver an impact statement, he delivers a punch to the head. Amidst the chaos, Gordon has an emotional moment of her own and has to be comforted by her attorney. It takes several sheriff's deputies to finally restore order. When the hearing resumes, Judge Van Houten issues a severe warning.
No outbursts in the courtroom. If there are any, you'll be removed from the courtroom.
She sentences Thomas to 57 months to 15 years for involuntary manslaughter and 1 to 2 years for resisting arrest. After Thomas is taken away, a tearful Gordon makes a plea to the judge.
To be placed in jail right now after kissing my daughter for the last time is something I would have wished I stayed to himself. I was not in the building. I was trying to forgive anybody. Never.
The tears were understandable, but do not change the fact that the little child was dead. And Judge Van Houten sentenced Gordon to 7 to 15 years for involuntary manslaughter and 14 to 25 years for first-degree child abuse. As for Dwayne Smith, the judge is gracious and decides not to hold the grieving father in contempt of court for his tempered outburst. Number 3. Tristan Lamoureux. Here in the 5th District Court in Cedar City, Utah, is where Tristan Lamoureux is to be sentenced. Lamoureux has just pleaded guilty to the killing of his wife, Misty, following an argument in their apartment. According to news reports, she was shot 5 times in the head. When the police arrived, they found Misty's body in the bathroom, and Lamoureux was caught fleeing the scene. Now in court, Lamoureux sits, surrounded by 4 deputies who closely watch over him. Judge G. Michael Westfall calls Misty's brother, Jason Wilson, to come up to the front of the courtroom and deliver his impact statement. As he approaches the podium, Wilson shoots an intimidating stare in the direction of the defendant, but Lamoureux remains unbothered as he casually rocks back and forth in his chair. After speaking for a while, Wilson breaks from his emotional testimony and turns his full attention to Lamoureux, but to no avail. Since the words don't appear to have any effect on the suspect, Wilson decides to try another method. Sheriff's deputies step up as Wilson begins to speak directly to the man who killed his sister. Wilson lunges at Lamoureux, but his lawyer pushes him back against the barrier. The suspect stands up as if he's ready to engage, but a deputy slams him to the ground and away from the melee. The deputies drag Wilson to the floor and restrain him. With the courtroom already in chaos, these inmates take in the scene completely unfazed. The deputies had to cuff Wilson, and he apologized for his actions, and the judge ordered him removed. The deputies put the courtroom back in order, and Lamoureux returned to rocking in his chair. According to local authorities, Jason Wilson was not charged for the incident. As for Tristan Lamoureux, he is eventually sentenced to 15 years to life imprisonment for first-degree murder. Number 2. Michael Cox Jr. Now we head to the Otero County Courthouse in Roswell, New Mexico for the criminal trial of Michael Cox Jr. Authorities say Cox molested a child when the two were alone watching television. He was charged with the criminal conduct of a minor under the age of 13. With the trial now concluded and Cox found guilty, Judge Jerry Ritter Jr. calls a bench conference with attorneys from both sides. As Deputy DA Scott Key, the man who just helped convict Cox, walks back to his seat, Cox tries to get the best of him. Cox lunges at Key, who makes a quick move before crashing into the podium. He takes a swing at the deputy DA as he hits the ground. Officer Katia Smith enters the courtroom just in time to witness the ruckus. She acts swiftly and attempts to restrain Cox, but the melee only intensifies as a man from the gallery joins the fray. With the courtroom at this level of chaos, Judge Ritter attempts to take back control, so he leaves the bench and orders the room to be immediately cleared. With the confrontation now over, Key pulls himself together, takes a moment to fix his hair, straighten up himself, and even place a trash can back in place, while Cox is cuffed and led away. So much for seizing the moment. Michael Cox received 18 years for criminal sexual contact with a minor, and for his ill-advised contact with the deputy DA, he got slapped with another 6 years for felony, battery, and aggravated misdemeanor. Number 1. Michael Madison. We are now in Cleveland, Ohio, straight to the Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court for the sentencing of convicted serial killer Michael Madison. Madison has been convicted on 3 counts of aggravated murder for the murder and mutilation of 3 young women in Ohio. The gruesome nature of the crime shocked the community of East Cleveland. Police found the remains of the victims in different areas of Madison's neighborhood. They even discovered some remains in his own apartment. The coroner said,
"There was evidence of decomposition fluid in several parts of the apartment building. There were maggots that were attached to the decomposition fluid."
Today, Madison finds out that he will receive the death penalty. As part of the hearing, Terry, the father of one of Madison's victims, steps up to the podium to make a victim impact statement. Mr. Terry is now just a few feet away from the man who so brutally took the life of his daughter, Sherilda.
Right now, I guess we're supposed to, in our hearts, forgive this clown who's touched our families, taken my child.
He shifts his gaze to the cold-blooded killer.
Terry. Whoever's in the red hat, you're excused. Red hat must leave.
Then Terry is released without charges. A short while later, County Judge McDonald hands down Madison's sentence. Michael Madison is sentenced to death and will head straight to death row. Mr. Terry lunges at this criminal with all his might, ready to take matters into his own hands, but he is prevented by the sheriff's deputies, and the murderer of his daughter is led away to be condemned. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to smash the like button, share our videos with your friends and family, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more amazing content. See you at the next one. Bye for now.